God bless you all. It is Tuesday on the 27th, and major predictions ahead. Obviously, we are living in a complete US dollar collapse reset, but it's important to understand and zero in and focus on the fact that they're resetting us into a new dollar. Okay, so I've explained in a lot of detail how the elites have repriced gold and silver by design. Again, their old central bank reserve currency, and they're using that and that new wealth that they've created, and they're transferring all of that into the new digitized dollar behind the scenes. This is going on right now. So as the US government stacks its strategic reserve and its soon-to-be emergency announcement, this will come quick, in 2026, that yes, the US dollar has been officially reset into a stablecoin equivalent. So understand that that's the plan. There's a lot of focus. It's actually been going viral all over the internet the last few days. People are zeroing in on the Dixie chart, the US dollar index, which has been in complete free fall the last few years. Like absolute trash and just dumping straight into the toilet as hyperinflation and purchasing power like Zimbabwe hits the United States of America. So understand that this is the plan, and this is how they reset the system into the new technology sphere, which makes up Bitcoin, cryptos, Trump's strategic reserve. But also understand, and I've made myself clear, the United States government is not moving to a Bitcoin standard. No, they're moving to a diversified, sovereign portfolio of cryptos. And then the new dollar will be in a digital format. Okay, it's going to be tethered. It's going to be a fiat digital equivalent. This is not going to be what El Salvador, for example, is doing in the US. Now, there are also Eurozone equivalents as well. And so that's all being rolled out by the ECB. Now, and understand these are opportunities of a lifetime. We've been talking about this the last few days. I mean, you really have the next couple of years to pivot, leverage, and profit from this, because the matrix and the 2030, the thing, I'm playing with the algorithms, the agenda is set in stone by the elites. So you must understand it's a game of chess. They're playing a game of chess. They've simulated these geopolitical moves. They've simulated the dollar's collapse. And just like we've seen before with Bretton Woods, and now a new version of that in the Trump era, otherwise known as the Golden Age, all of that is going to be declared under executive action and emergency measures, which will result in capital controls in the United States. For those of you who don't know what capital controls are, we saw this in Cyprus with bail-ins, where they just stole money straight out of your bank account, or the banks close in a bank holiday. I remind you, there are no reserves in the US financial system at all. No bank in the United States has a reserve requirement. It is zero, and they took it to zero in 2020 and then never changed that. So understand, the whole system's based on fractional reserves, of which they have none, and of which they lend out disproportionately at 10x in the form of debt that they create and mint out of thin air. So we study history. Obviously, we all know what happened in Zimbabwe. We all know what happened with the Argentine peso. It's becoming clear what's happening to the US dollar. But understand that Trump has a plan here. We go back to the World Look Ahead in The Economist magazine of 2026, and there's a lot of emphasis on the dollar. Okay, so here's my opinion. I actually think the dollar, because it's being reset and we're in process of this now, is actually a little bit oversold. It's still trash and not worth the paper that it's printed on, but it's oversold. And again, we see strong indicators of this, which are lagging, like gold and silver prices. Again, gold and silver pump historically during a crisis, not before it. They're not a leading indicator. So yesterday I said, looks like a blow off top to me in silver, and that actually proved accurate because at one point silver was up like 15%, then dumped down on the day and like a 20%, 25% daily intraday move and was like trading down 6-7%. So let's go back to the world ahead. Again, the deep state cabal has a plan. And I'm looking at this image that I've shared with you many times before. I've put this on X. By the way, thank you for following me there. We've added thousands of new followers on X. It's free to follow, so make sure you do that. I put out a lot of insightful daily videos, morning videos, things that I don't put out here on the tube. But I'm looking at this image, and it shows a ball of chaos. But it also shows paper being printed everywhere, which is what's currently happening. And it shows us the 250-year centennial and a control stick. Because again, what are the elites doing? The elites control a hive mind. And they're doing it now through technology and social media. And more importantly, what they've revealed to the public, although they had through DARPA for a very long time. They had AI, but they only just released it after the lockdowns. And so they're controlling human emotion, the masses' minds, their ability to manipulate weather events and natural disasters, but also to influence human energy and the energetic nature of what we can't see. Again, just like a radio tunes into a frequency, these new deep state technologies can tune in to the receiver, which is what? The Internet of People and the Internet of Humans now. How are they doing that? Well, they're doing it with what was put inside, okay? They're also doing it through your cell phone. They're doing it through the towers that were built during the lockdowns. And they're doing it in your skies by building a web of satellites that, again, operate on the EMF spectrum and tune in, but send signals, more importantly, to that frequency. So, the masses are very much being controlled by this hive mind technology, and they don't even really know it. I explained this in great depth in 2020 because we saw how the panic set in that was irrational by most of the masses. There was no discernment of what was going on, except from people like you tuning in, people like myself, that thank God we've got the Holy Spirit so we can wade through fact from fiction and truth and lies. So what's going on here? Big geopolitical transition, a big geopolitical reset, focus on Iran, regime change there, destabilization in Ukraine, still no resolution, organizing peoples, populations, which, by the way, is the primary focus of a government. In fact, the most important thing for a government to control isn't even the money supply. It's people. It's controlling their mind. It's controlling their emotion. And more importantly, it's controlling their actions. So I'm looking at this world ahead image, which I've shown you guys before. Each year, the deep state, cabal, elites tell you, which is what Satan does, what they're going to do before it happens. Notice the fist, which has a lock on it, okay, handcuffs, and see the cake, and see the brain being controlled by a controller, and see there, that hasn't happened yet, but it will. See that cloaked cargo ship firing on the United States of America? Maybe that's Iran that hits us. Maybe there's some kind of asymmetric event, God forbid. Now, originally, I've studied this in detail. The kicker that's kicking us into chaos as they move forward into 2030 was going to originally be Donald Trump, but they thought it was too controversial, so they put him in the center. And I've gone over a lot of detail on this on X. I'm not going to go over all the details, but I really want you to understand and have a non-emotional mind and outlook of what's happening. Again, they're never going to pay back the debt. So what do? They invent new technology. And then through an emergency and a crisis, they move you to it, which they've just done. They've moved you to the Hive mind, and now AI. And they're moving you to blockchain. And BlackRock's moving you to tokenization. But you must understand what they're pushing, of course, is totalitarian, and it is anti-freedom and anti-liberty. And then you have people like us fighting for good, using technology as a weapon to give people liberty and freedom and opportunity. And so there's this war going on. It's also, and we've talked a lot about this, how the West and East is now forming these new coalitions and these large bloc bodies, of which Trump tells us is a national security threat, which again is why he wants Greenland, et cetera. So there's not a lot in the news today, but I want us to all have kind of a forest through the trees, top-down view of what's happening so that you guys can protect yourself, pivot, leverage, and profit. So again, what's going to happen next? Well, the dollar, which may be a little oversold now, eventually is going to move into some kind of pre-planned crisis. And of course, there's going to be an economic crisis, which there is now, and some kind of financial event in the United States. I believe this will result in the equivalent of not just bank runs and bank holidays and possible bail-ins, but the inability to move money. So you have to think about this as well as, look at immigration, for example. The United States isn't the only country worldwide that is really closing our borders. Other countries are reacting to what the U.S. is doing. And so when we look at this at a high level, and I only have a few more minutes left today, just thought I'd do a quick video. I've got to take a phone call with my architect here in a minute. We can kind of look at this and see exactly what they're going to do. Again, the big leading signs, warning signs right now have been gold, have been silver, have been real assets hyperinflating beyond what people's expectations were since 2020, loss of purchasing power, and then more importantly, instability on the ground, of which many people are calling, a civil war. So we've got Minneapolis, we've got very vitriolic politics, we've got almost like a non-functioning political system. But again, how are people being controlled? They're being controlled by the new technology. They're being controlled by their phones. They're being controlled by the media. And they're also being controlled by the currency. I'm looking at this image again too, and we see the US dollar kind of breaking down. You'll see this right here, and I've only got maybe about 60 seconds left, right? Look at all the money that's been printed. Look at the two swords representing the political system. You see Xi Jinping there to the right, or maybe your left. You see tanks, war, satellites. You see a fist and handcuffs. You see a little boat. Maybe that means like the Silk Road or something like that, or China's new pathways and waterways that they're using for trade. And we see a big geopolitical, confusing to a lot of people event. And again, the more confusion they can breed, the more chaos that unfolds, the easier it is to move us into the new system. So just understand that, but the divisive nature of how the elites have constructed the current system as they transition it is the perfect blueprint of which they're going to give you the solution to the problem they created. Again, no too big to fail banker isn't going to get a bailout, guys. Okay, none of the elites and oligarchs are, going to pay the price or repercussions of this transition. It's the American people that suffer. So I've got to take a call. It's a quick video. I'll probably do something maybe later. Follow me on X. Get your money out of the banks. Understand where this is headed. But understand, importantly, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Again, you will never get a chance to buy Bitcoin at these prices ever again. You will never be able to buy crypto at these prices ever again. You will never have the opportunity to make more money now, currently, than you will have in the future. Because by the time 2030 rolls out, not only will universal basic income be declared, probably worldwide, but the gap between rich and poor will saturate on both sides, where it becomes much more difficult for upward mobility for the average and typical American family. And I'm not the only one talking about this, and arguably it's already happened. So use technology as a weapon, use your mind and your faith as a weapon, see what's actually happening, and then take the actions necessary to not just protect yourself, but to thrive in that environment. So God bless you. I got to jump on a quick call. Just wanted to make sure, because I always do a daily video. Again, contact my father at 808-442-2934. That's 808-442-2934. We are launching Deck 2 imminently. Very, very exciting. And I just want to wish you guys a happy day. God bless you. I love you. Got a big workout in earlier. Really happy about that. Again, live your best life. Live your investment. Your mindset is key to you being successful in this environment. And I just encourage all of you to join us. And you can do that absolutely for free by following, subscribing, following me on X. We just crushed 411K on Facebook. And we're growing all across Rumble right now as well. It's a very exciting time to be alive. So I'll do more deep dives, more exclusive reports, but that's all I have for today. And thank you. You know, we have tremendous gratitude. I do, my father does, all of my members, all of our subscribers. You're just beautiful people, and I love you so much. It's why I do what I do. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for more updates like this.